Okay, so we have covered timing differences and non-timing differences. Yes, we agree that timing differences, like we talked about, these are processing differences, so unpresented checks and outstanding lodgements. Yes. And then we talked about non-timing differences, if you like, differences that you just need to go to your bank and have a look and update your cash book with. So we have direct debits, standing orders, credit transfers, bank charges, bank interest. Yes, you have to go in and look and just update your cash book with whatever's with whatever has happened. These are typically expenses, direct debits and standing orders, bank charges. I mean, this is money coming in, bank interest. Yes. So it'll be debit bank and credit interest, yes, with the bank interest. And of course here it's debit bank charges because these are expenses. Yeah, so these are expenses and that's income. Typically these are expenses, and this depends. Is the money coming in or is it going out? But it's online. That's the key point. It's online. Right. So what I want to just quickly tie up is that apart from talking about these two, and of course I've emphasized where these go. Yes, the timing differences go in your bank rec, and your non-timing differences go in your updated cash book. Yes, so no mistakes there. In your updated cash book. Okay, so what I want to talk about very quickly, very briefly, is another set of differences, another set of reasons why your bank statement would not agree to your cash book, right? And these are primarily non-timing differences. Yes, there are a couple. Yes, just two of them I'm going to discuss. And that's really because of some errors, or what we refer to as dishonored checks. So what are we saying here? Well, say for example, you receive a check for £200, and for some strange reason you write in £2,000 in your cash book. When that check gets to your bank, well, your bank's not going to record 2,000, your bank's going to record 200. So of course there's going to be a difference. And the question is, where is the error? The error is never with your bank. The error is with your cash book. So your job is to fix that error. This is not a timing difference. This has nothing to do with processing. This is a non-timing difference. So you go and fix that error by updating your cash book. We'll look at how we do that in a second. We don't go technically, I guess the argument is you could think, oh, what can I do? Do I just rub this out of my cash book? Well, if you've balanced your cash book, you don't just rub it out. You need to sort of, amend it by reducing it or whatever by the required amount. But that's pretty easy. We'll look at that in a second. And then we have the situation with our dishonored checks. Now, what is a dishonored check? Let's discuss this. So, for example, you have a scenario where you have let's call you A, and you receive a check from B. Okay, so you receive a check, and then you, of course, in your cash book, here's your cash book, you record the check. Say the check is for £500. You call it B, you receive the check from B, no problem. And here's your bank statement. If you like, 500. B, as credit, if you like, or 500 credit. Of course, the money's gone in. Now, what happens is that, of course, your bank will go to B's bank and say, can we have the money? And B's bank will say, if, for example, which is the case with dishonored checks, that B does not have the money. So what happens straight away, if you like, the next day or the day after, you will see this sort of situation where the 500 is coming out and you're back to zero. So basically, your bank will call you and say to you, or well, they'll wait for you when you check your bank statement. You will realize that the check never cleared, and that's referred to as a dishonored check. It could happen either way. You could have written the check, and you could have deducted it, and then you realize that actually you had no money, and then the person you've written the check sends the check back to you. So you now have to update. So the question is, you have no money, so of course you have no money. Oh, zero. So you have to check that. You comparing that zero with this 500, there is a difference. So you need to update the cash book, and the only, I guess, common sense thing to do would be to deduct the 500 from your cash book. And this brings you back to 0. So let's look at an example. Yes, I've actually put these two errors together. Here we have a situation here. We have balance brought down to 500, and that's fine. 500. Yes. So let's, as usual, tick off and make sure we tick off the things that are in both. That's the 500. That's the 500. That's the 100. The 100 is fine. That's the 100. And that's the 400. The 400 is fine. And that's the 400. The 400 is fine. Now let's look here. Look at what happened here. Here we have the situation where you've recorded 173 as a receipt from J. Baker, but in reality, your bank really, sorry, I sort of did a quick edit here. This should be J. Baker. J. Baker. Your bank has recorded you receiving only 137, which means that your bank is correct because somehow you in your rush transposed the figures, you swapped the figures over, and you put 173. So you need to fix this. This is where the problem is. So this is a non-timing difference that is fixed in the update of the cash book. And we'll do that. So let's do that first. So, or let's look at all the errors and then we'll do both of them. Here you received a check of 200 from someone. I don't have a name right now. And you've put in here 200. But of course you can see later on, I'll just change this as well. This on a check. You can see here that that's the 200 going in, but that's the 200 coming out because the person just didn't. It took a couple of days, but the money just didn't, was never really there. So that's really 0. So I guess it makes sense. I guess it's obvious that, well, you've got 200 here showing that you've got money. Well, really, you need to, credit that 200, that side of 200 to get rid of that 200. So what we do is, again, we go to the updated cash book. So you have a balance brought down currently right now in your cash book of 373. 373. Actually, let me just get rid of all these formulas so that this is not, so we don't get confused. 373 we start off with. So what do we first of all do? Well, let's fix this error. Our cash book is currently thinking we have 173. Well, we don't have 173. So we need to reduce this amount by the difference. Yes, of one. So let's just quickly do that here. What is the difference? We could do it. There's 2 ways to do it, but I prefer this one. It doesn't matter. They're both the same thing. 36. So we need to reduce this by 36. Yes, error. On check, and you can write the check number in terms of references. We reduce that by 36 because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring this figure down to what it really should be. And then we also have, remember that dishonored check? You had 200 in here, if you like. Well, you don't have 200 anymore, so you write dishonored check. The 200. And so your new balance carried down is this minus these two, giving you 137. And so your balance carried down here is 130. Your balance brought down is 130, which looks exactly like your bank. I mean, in this case, we haven't had any sort of timing differences. If you did, that's fine. You just carry on working. And in this updated cash book, you'd have everything else we've talked about. Standing orders, direct debits, bank transfers, bank interest, whatever. Point is, now we have this 137 and it looks like our bank account. So going back to summarize what we're talking about, we are saying that we have other types of whoops. One second, I don't know, I think I've touched something. Yes, we have other types Okay, I've lost my pen. Oh, I gotta go back. Okay, good. So we have other types of non-timing differences. Yes, other types of non-timing differences, and they are errors and dishonored checks. Errors made primarily by yourself in the cache book. So what you do is update the cache book. And exactly the same thing with dishonored checks. This is not an error. You've just recorded a check that you've received or a check you've paid. All you have to do is reverse it in the updated cache book. Yes, updated cache book. Reverse it just to because it has not cleared through the bank. So this is the final section of bank reconciliations. There are a couple more little things that we will look at as we do exam papers, but for now this is sufficient. Okay, great stuff. See you in the next lecture.